1. I started working at a pretty nice Italian place. I worked at a steakhouse and seafood restaurant for over a decade in the past, managed. Within the first weeks working there, I noticed a lot of signs that the owners are cheap as hell penny pinchers. On my nightly checkout reports, I noticed a few dollars were taken out of my tips every night for a mysterious charge. They already take out 5% of the ring out nightly for tip pool. After a few nights, I asked another server and she said, "That's what we pay to use the computers." I was confused and asked what she meant. She said, "The point-of-sale system costs money every month to use, and that's how they pay for it. They take some of our tips every night." My response was, "Are you serious?" She didn't even seem to find it odd. Another example, they don't give utensils or napkins with to-go orders. They say it's to cut back on costs. They set about 4 of those cheap restaurant rags around at side stations for cleaning. If you need a new one, you have to go to the office and ask. It's to cut back on paying Cintas to clean them. Last week, they implemented a new policy about requesting time off. You can't request a day or 2 days off. You can only request 3 or more days off. If you just want 1 or 2 days off, you have to wait for the next week's schedule to come out and ask someone to cover your shift for you, which is almost impossible because they're open Tuesday to Saturday, and almost everyone works 5 days a week. If you can't find anyone, you can't get the day off. I was a manager for over a decade, and it's clear to me that they're just trying to get people to not request days off, or they're just too lazy or incompetent to write a schedule. I did it for years and managed to schedule people accordingly. The management said they're doing it because they have too many request-off slips and it's hard to keep track of. Worst of all, the owner. He's an old Peruvian guy who's balding on top and has a ponytail. He's notorious in town for being a pervert. He had to sign the business over to his wife, who's like 30 years younger than him, because he had so many sexual harassment lawsuits that it was more financially viable for it to be in her name. He berates and insults us regularly. He has learned to pretty much leave me alone because when he does it to me, I just basically look him in the eye to let him know that I'm not scared of him, which seems to work because he's just a bully. For example, on my second week, I was cutting bread, and he ran over yelling, "No, no, no, you're cutting it too thick." I said, "Oh, you want thinner slices? Okay." And he said, "No, not okay. I fire people who say okay." I just looked at him and said, "Thank you," and walked away. Like what the actual hell, he does stuff like this all the time. Sometimes he can be kind of chill, but you never know when he will fly off the handle and be an ass. Also, the overall vibe of the employees seems a bit off to me, like they have a superiority complex. My family ran a restaurant for over 20 years, and it definitely wasn't as high class. I think more Red Lobsterish. But we had to close it down because Texas Roadhouse bought the lot it was on. We weren't fancy per se, but we served wine, lobster, crab, prime rib, etc., and were big in the community and well loved. In my first week at this place, I was talking to a couple of the waitresses about it, and they were straight up talking trash about my family's business right in front of me. They said, "Yeah, I heard awful things about that place. I went, and it was awful. I've only ever heard awful things." I said, "Wow, you talk a lot of crap for me standing right here." Another time, I was talking to the kitchen manager about a meal she hosted for some big-shot guests, and I made a joke about how I liked to eat Taco Bell, and she said, "Okay, well, this isn't Taco Bell, and this isn't your family's restaurant. We do things different." I'm a pretty laid-back guy, and I generally let things roll off my back. Plus, I'm only working this job to earn money while I go back to school to get my degree. But the attitude and general atmosphere of the place does grate on me. I am not crying every night or anything, but the thought of my next shift does cause me a small amount of anxiety because I feel like I'm entering a somewhat hostile work environment every shift. There are actually some really cool people here, but most of them are younger bussers and hosts, etc., plus the kitchen, who barely speak English. I'm thinking of quitting for a better place, though. The tips are alright, but servers only get like 15 to 20 hours a week. so every 2 weeks check is only like $1,500 or less. You get credit card tips on your paycheck. Would you put up with this kind of crap at a restaurant? Hellfreezer's note, no, not a chance would I do that. I mean, taking a percentage of your tips anyway sounds very dodgy. I'd look up the laws in the state you live in. But paying to use the computer? They're con artists. If you have other options, get out of there as soon as you have something else to go to. And as you say, you're only doing it temporarily while you work on your degree. And I hope that works out for you in the future. 2. I'm a 21-year-old woman, used to supervise a restaurant. There was a guy called Steve, male, 50-ish, who wasn't problematic until he became a dedicated regular. This guy would plant himself at the bar for hours and ask questions every 2 minutes or so, and interrupt staff a lot. Random stuff like, Hey you, do you think I'm a funny guy? Do you shave your armpits? And do you like puzzles? Most questions were harmless, like, dude, we're trying to work. Anyway, one weekend, there was a band and all of the staff were relieved that it was a bit too loud to hear his questions. Now, he always got the same beer and had maybe 2 or 3, but that night, he ordered shots of Jägermeister in his own personal shot glass too. And while still following the liquor policies, we had no trouble serving him. Because it was so busy, I had only seen this from a distance, but 1 minute Steve was chilling at the bar and next, gonzo. For the next 3 showers until the restaurant closed, no one noticed he left. Steve had left his glasses and shot glass on the bar to save his seat, but the bartender thought he just forgot them and left. Around 1 a.m. at close, a security guard came in for their lockup routine, and the doors were all good except for the bathrooms. Excuse me, the restaurant is closed. Please vacate the bathroom. Now, typically, if someone knocks while you're going to the bathroom, most people say something. I'm making poopies. We heard nothing. Assuming whoever was in there was needing more time, the security said that he would come back in a few. When security came back, they knocked on the door again and didn't hear anything until they knocked really hard and said, Hello, if you're in there, please notify us if you're in need of assistance. The restaurant is closed. The restaurant had many elderly patrons, and we assumed that someone might have fallen or injured themselves. The security guard looked at me like, what should we do? Then we heard a groan. Of course, we knocked again, with the same speech, and heard another groan. Thinking it might be a medical emergency, the guard calls for his boss. Right as we're debating whether or not we have just cause to kick the door down, guess who comes out of the bathroom? Yep, Steve. He strolls up to us, scratching the front of his pants, and had vomit all over his shirt. He was yawning while saying, Who's got my glasses? We all just kind of stared at him. Steve proceeded to sit back down at the bar as we asked him to leave. Then he put money on the bar and shuffled out in his flip-flops, talking about how he had a great nap. For crying out loud, Steve, you annoying cockweasel. 3. Our restaurant doesn't have a traditional setup. You order with the bartenders and pick up your food from the kitchen. The kitchen is kind of open air. There's literally just a chest-high wall dividing the kitchen from the guests. On that wall, we have a whole selection of hot sauces lined up for people to use. We are a hot spot in this town. The story. It was a Wednesday night, which is usually pretty slow. We close at 10, but if it's real slow, we may close down early. We started cleaning the kitchen as if we were closing down around 7:30, and by 9, we were pretty much ready to mop the floors and leave. I went to the bathroom. 8 minutes later, I come back, and my coworker is livid. These damn people. Then he points towards the front. There's like 8 or 10 people decided where to sit. He says, I already told the bartender we're closed, so limited menu. He and I never talked about closing early that night, just getting the cleaning done. Whatever, cool. They order their food, and there's like 17 items, all simple tacos with like chips and salsa. The whole time we are making food, he's audibly talking trash, which I somewhat go along with, "Yeah, this sucks, man." But he's cursing and insulting them at a level where they probably hear it. I ring their buzzer. They come up for their food. I start handing out plates. The main guy of the group is like 6'4", looks like he works out every day. I'm a big dude, and I wouldn't want to annoy this guy. This guy tells me, "Yeah, we're missing a lot of tacos. We ordered 10 pork and 10 chicken. It's not on his ticket, so he pulls a handwritten list of food from his pocket to prove that's what he wanted. My coworker says, "Oh, a little piece of paper. That's nice. You're still gonna have to pay for the tacos." I'm trying to be cordial and get them their food so we can wrap it up, so I tell him we'll get it made for you, just talk with the bartender and get paid up. Cool? They walk away, and we start making food again, and my coworker gets even louder. "These damn losers come in after the kitchen's closed and complain." Blah, blah, blah. We found out they were eating after a funeral. This guy is talking to the bartender, and I need to know if he wants cheese, so I wave him over. "Hey man, you want cheese on these?" "Yeah, cheese on my traditional," looks at my coworker and says, "And you can stop running your damn mouth. We just got out of a funeral, we're just trying to eat." "Oh, my bad, we were already closed. You're lucky we're making your food anyway. Who cares you were coming from a funeral, did you die?" Then it becomes, "I'm gonna come back there and give you a whooping." Coworker picks up a knife. "I dare you to come back here, bitch. It'll be the last thing you do. I'll get my gun and put 2 in your chest." I shake off the shock, run over and just put my hand on the arm with the knife and try to get him to calm down. A few more words are exchanged, then, remember that wall I talked about? The guy grabs a Louisiana hot sauce bottle, huge bottle, and whips it across the wall, hits my coworker in the head, bottle explodes, hot sauce everywhere. My coworker takes off towards the back. I can only assume for his gun. I go after him. All the way through the back of the restaurant there is blood trailed on the floor, blood on the lowboys. I find my friend by the office, just gushing blood from his head, holding his phone. Apparently he didn't have a gun and just called the cops. The mother of the group followed me back and is hysterical. "We just came from my mom's funeral. We just wanted to eat." Just understandably angry and ranting. The guy comes back right after her with his hand behind his back. He had a broken hot sauce bottle ready to finish the job, I guess. They see the phone, put 2 and 2 together, and realize the cops are on the way. We get them to leave. Cops and paramedics show up, and it's just a madhouse. The bartender is crying because my coworker was already talking crap to her before this all happened. The medics sit my coworker down and start tending to this huge wound on his head. Then this homeless guy that comes around walks up, points to the table full of food, and says, "Can I get to-go boxes?" I say, "No, Anthony, get the hell out of here." Coworker got fired, naturally, but came back for his things and to check, and was talking like he did nothing wrong, and this all happened unprovoked, and just trying to make himself look good. Then starts talking crap about me and the bartender after he realized everyone already heard the real story from us. Okay, if you read this, and I love you, homie, we're still cool, but dude, when you play knife gun hot sauce, no one wins. 4. I work at a kind of crummy bar, where there's a regular who started coming right when I was new. He immediately had a crush on me, to which he told multiple people about, and didn't hide, which doesn't necessarily bother me. I've had flirty guests who were into me before, but it doesn't always bother me, unless they're creepy. He progressively started coming more often when he knew I was working, and started telling me more about his life. He told me about his sister dying, his depression, and his broken life, basically. He kept saying how glad he was to see me, how he needed it, how much he needed Cherry Waves time. Me time, kind of weird. It started making me feel a bit weird, but like nothing bad. I need some more Cherry Waves time outside of your work hours. And I'm trying to avoid him asking me out. He tried to slide me his phone to put in my contact info, so I told him I have a boyfriend, which is true. It was really awkward, but he was nice about it. Then he started coming in more and more, staying for the entirety of my shift, usually over 4 hours. He always sits in the bar, and I can't really avoid it since I need to stay there. The entire time I keep being clear about having a boyfriend, but he seems more and more into me. He started giving me songs to listen to. I got a summer job abroad and put in my notice for work, and my employer said I can return when I'm back home. Guy came in and was saying how distraught he was when he heard the news, and that he needed to see me before I go. He wrote me a playlist, for crying out loud, and added his number. I said thanks and made no comment about the number. At the end of my shift, I swear I saw him crying. He comes in my last 2 shifts, both days staying super late and talking to me non-stop. I just felt so awkward and uncomfortable, especially since he wasn't doing anything inherently bad. He's nice and all, but it was just too much overall since I'm not interested in him whatsoever. He continues to mention the possibility of us texting and staying in touch, etc., etc. He knows I'm not single. Then, at the end of my last shift, after he was there since the beginning of my shift, 5 hours, he says, "Come on, give me a hug." To which I respond, "I think I'm okay." My god, his reaction was so awkward, just, okay, I'm gonna leave now. I feel bad because of how he told me about his really personal problems, but also justified. Everyone said I did a good thing, but I still feel so icky, it was so awkward to me. I didn't want to hug him at all, and I also didn't want him to have the thought that he has a chance. I got the impression he hoped I would be single by the time I return, since he said a lot can happen in a certain number of months. Anyways, thanks for listening to my long rant. It helps me get rid of the icky, awkward feeling I had. Hellfreezer's note, just want to chime in here. He's not a nice guy. He's a creep, and quite frankly, that was stalker behavior. Any man who, when he's been told no, doesn't just move on with his life, is not to be trusted. You definitely did the right thing in how you reacted. It's unfortunate that the owners of the bar, or whoever else might have been around with you, didn't think to ban him or bar him for his behavior. He may not have been acting up, but he was clearly there for you, and that was making you uncomfortable. You shouldn't have to feel uncomfortable in your workplace. 5. So just for some context, our owners have 2 other restaurants. They're both Italian kitchens. Our location is strictly pizza. Because of our location, the district we are in does not want to introduce more competition to the 2 places that are already doing Italian food in that area. I say this because obviously those locations are a bit more upscale and slow-paced service. Ours is a lot more fast-paced and casual. But our owners just cannot seem to understand that. We opened almost 3 months ago, and it's only gone downhill. In the beginning, I was making 400 a shift, no matter what. These numbers have dropped drastically, and the bull has grown drastically. I'm talking passive-aggressive texts after and before shift. Post-it notes all over the restaurant so she doesn't have to speak to us directly. We are not allowed to use plastic to-go cups. No to-go stuff at all, actually. Schedules getting changed out of spite. We're getting charged for mistakes and broken things, glasses, shakers, table stains. What do you want with white marble in a pizza place, you psycho? God forbid a table gets chipped. She told us if we were the last to have that table when she finds it, then that's the reason we'll have to pay to have it replaced. She recently held a staff meeting in the middle of the shift. Most people were not there, and she just dogged on us the whole 20 minutes. Not only that, but I believe she's a bit delusional. She's told us we're intentionally not pushing specials, and she knows 90% of the customers that come in, and she knows they would 1000% order our specials if we just told people. Bro, you have 8 specials a day and drink specials. My customers cut me off halfway through telling them because they're just not interested. But also we have little tabletop things that tell them. Like, it's just not necessary for me to drone on for 10 minutes. I'm tipping out bartenders for drinks I'm making myself because they're taking too long, tipping out bussers 5% of my total sales when truly all they do is wipe my table down because we get sent home if we're not pre-bussing enough. She does not treat us as people. We cannot order food while working, we cannot sit in the restaurant on break to eat, we cannot order our food to go, and we can only order if we're done with tables, but if we put in an order too close to the end of shift, she will tell the kitchen not to make it. Makes no sense. I still order. I'll be damned if I let some random woman, even if she is my boss, tell me what I can and cannot eat. Anyway, we just found out the uptown location lost all their servers and hosts. The next day, same exact thing in the downtown location, big walkouts. Servers and bartenders have now started dwindling at our location as well. And I revived a group chat from some of the girls proposing we do the same. The owner seems so confused, like, "Ma'am, how do you not understand that you are literally the problem?" She only treats back of house well, and that's because they're mostly family. I thought I came from a toxic place, but wow, this takes the cake. I drive home crying because of the words she says. My ear does not work when I'm there, and I'm telling y'all, I've had it checked so many times. My doctor's told me he believes it's my anxiety causing it. Is there a way to get through to people like this? Hellfreezer's note. The only thing I'd have to add there is you mentioned owners, plural, at the beginning. Is there a way to talk to the others? Or, if you get to the point where you're just going to walk out, you have no reason to hold your tongue at that point. Just be civil, but be firm and say all the things you've been saying here, because if you don't care about the job, it doesn't matter if she fires you. So bear that in mind. You could get fired for doing this. Tell her what's wrong with the place. Point out that she's lost the staff at 2 other places and she's going to lose them here because she's just not listening. The way she's doing things is wrong. And if she's so sure she's right, ask her to try it your way. Or the staff's way. I'm sure you all have ideas. To try it your way for a month to see if that turns things around. And if it does, it's very obvious what the problem is there. But as I say, only do that when you don't care about getting fired. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 245. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button if you'd be so good. And if you'd like early access to these videos, that's easy enough to do. You can support me on my Patreon on a monthly basis for as little as $1 a month. Or more if you like, I will not say no to more. You'll also find a link in there to the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring. As is, I believe there's also a link to the Hellfreezer Discord if you'd like to pop over there and join us. And you can, of course, leave tips during any video if you like, if you really enjoyed it. But you don't have to, although I do appreciate it, and it really is helpful to me. Right, I don't think we've any more shoutouts or anything to do, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: what is a vegetable you love but you don't think you use enough of? Like, I really like spring onions. I guess some people, you folks might call them green onions. You're the ones with the long green stem. I love those. I like to put them in pasta. I like them on sandwiches. Very versatile, very yummy. I like them more than regular onions. But I really only buy them every once in a while. If I'm cooking Chinese food or something, I like to put them in that. But they're a very good sandwich item as well, I find. So why don't you let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this question was in relation to forms of entertainment that you partake in that you just don't understand why you like it. You just do. And today's answer comes from Hero Phantasmal. My guilty media pleasure is a good crime scene interrogation video. Hours and hours of raw interrogation footage. It is entertaining to analyze body language and listen to the stories unfold. Oh, that's interesting. I remember, it was a couple of months back now, I found Jensen Ackles. There is an interrogation video of him that was presumably leaked online, or maybe they're public knowledge. I really don't know how they get online. Of him speaking with the police. No, he hadn't done anything wrong. He was innocent. He was legitimately helping the police with their inquiries because he was on that film Rust with Alec Baldwin. And he wasn't there that day when the badness happened, but he was. One thing I took away from that is Jensen Ackles would never have got in that situation that Alec Baldwin found himself in, because Jensen Ackles, after years of working on Supernatural and various other projects, but definitely Supernatural, knows about gun safety and knows how to practice proper gun safety. Then I realized from an interview years ago, because I have some awareness of how you should conduct yourself with a gun on the set of a movie, it was him. He's the one I learned that from. Was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're always checking the thing, because it doesn't matter how much you upset the Master of Arms or whatever they're called. Safety first. And everybody in the chain of custody for that gun is responsible for its safety, so check it as many times as need be, and because it only takes once of not doing it until somebody dies. So, yes, that sprung to mind there mentioning that. I can definitely see the appeal. Thank you very much for your answer, Hero Phantasmal. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.